but listen to his sentence pronunciation. His intonation over the overall sentence, and the beginning and the end of the clauses, the phrases, and the sentence. What do you hear?
The honourable gentleman has got to learn the art of patience. And if he is patient, if he deploys Zen, he will find that it is ultimately to everybody's advantage. So we'll leave it there.
Okay, so hopefully you noticed the sentence intonation patterns. So at different points, you have rising and falling intonation. It might begin sometimes with a rising intonation on a subject that's mainly if you are making a transition, like blah, blah, blah. Now let's move on to such and such. So he is actually transitioning and he's getting the attention of somebody. So he starts out with a high tone and then goes kind of flat and kind of a rush through the honorable gentleman, something like that. So it starts out rising sometimes to get someone's attention. He's speaking to somebody. But otherwise, normal intonation, and he gets to the end of the clause, would like to learn patience, the art of patience. And so there on the art of patience, it goes down. So that's your normal sentence final or clause final intonation. And that's the normal thing in sentences, probably to some degree in any language. So as you're speaking a sentence, your glottis is vibrating, and you're getting to the end of the sentence, and your lungs are running out of air. Okay, it's time to end the sentence. So there's less air pressure, and so the intonation is going down. And so we use that, we time that with the end of our clauses, the sentence clauses, or the end of the sentences, usually. And there are certain cases though where you have rising intonation over the whole sentence. This is in addition to the little rises and falls over content words within the sentence, the art of patience, there are little rises and falls, the art of patience. So notice the art of patience, the art, so it's like, we do it from your point of view, the art of patience. So there's your sentence final drop off, this intonation is dropping off. That's your normal sentence final lowering, the intonation lowering. So the art, so content word has a little rise and fall, the art of patience. So patience has a stronger rise and fall, stronger intonation than the other content words of the sentence or the clause. So that's important, we'll get to that. That's what we call sentence stress, and talk about that in a minute. So your sentence intonations, what are its functions? Well, commands, especially like a falling intonation, for example.
Order! Order! Sit, order! I know what I'm doing. Order! Order! Division!
Questions? Okay. Questions. Have you done your homework? So maybe a WH question, you've already got a word like what have you done? You don't really need intonation there, but for other kinds of questions, have you done your homework? Rising intonation at the end signals a question. Now, back to the sentence stress. So he has a main stress on patience. It's louder than the other content words in the sentence, more intonation. That's the main point of the clause or sentence. So each main clause or sentence in English has this, what we call a sentence stress. In linguistics, if you study linguistics, the technical term is nuclear or tonic stress, but that's not important for us. Every clause has a clear main stress. One of the content words probably, or one important word, has more stress than the others. You need to do this in order for your speaking to sound more natural and for people to be able to follow you. It's often, since it's maybe the last word or one of the last content words of a sentence, it's going to be like your predicate, an important word, new word, your verb, or maybe the objects or complements of the verb and something in the predicate. It's kind of the important new idea in the sentence, and so we heighten that, we draw more attention to that by putting more intonation on that. And you can listen to me right now, I'm putting more intonation on the key word in my predicate or a key word at or near the end of my clauses and sentences. I'm doing it naturally. English and other Western languages do this. And it's very helpful for people to be able to follow you and follow your point and your flow of ideas and flow of logic because they're highlighting something. Now, we might also put special stress on something else, to put a special emphasis on something else.
There will be an opportunity for other points of order, but the Prime Minister must and will be heard. There will be an opportunity for other points of order, but the Prime Minister must and will be heard.
That's sentence stress, and that's really important. So good speakers use good, clear sentence stress. It's not overdone, but it's clear. Listen to good speakers like Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, John Bercow, and others. Maybe your favorite audiobook readers, good actors, good public speakers. Some of the good speakers on TED.com have pretty clear sentence stress, so it's easy to follow what they are saying. And this is something you might want to practice as you're preparing for your presentation. Now let's look at rising intonation. What are functions of rising intonation? Some questions, as we mentioned, have rising intonation. Then also a couple of things called holding the floor and seeking confirmation. So what are those? So rising intonation questions, confirmation tags. So tag questions, and if you learn English as a second language, these are a little tricky grammatically. I can say this sentence two ways. You're going home, aren't you? You're going home, aren't you? So the second one has a rising intonation, more rising intonation. What's the difference? The first one, maybe I'm more certain. I'm just checking for confirmation. So that's more of a confirmation tag. You're going home, aren't you? So I'm pretty sure you're going home. I'm just confirming it. Whereas more of an exploratory tag question. I'm asking a real question. It's more of a real question. You're going home, aren't you? So I'm really not sure. So I'm asking it like a real question with rising intonation. You're going home, aren't you? So I'm not sure. So I'm asking you for sure. I'm asking you for real. I don't know. I kind of think I've heard that you are, but I'm really asking. A similar thing is an echo question. So like my friend Will, who's leading the meeting. Oh, leading the meeting? I don't know. I didn't know you needed to have a leader for the meeting. So it's an echo question. You're kind of repeating something back, an echo question. By the way, a little tip for you. If you find tag questions confusing, that is when you have to put together a tag question in your head and you can't think of the grammar, what's the right form of the verb, if that's confusing for you, simple trick. Use the Canadian "eh." It's a discourse marker and it takes place of any tag question. You're going home, eh? You're going home, eh? That was a great game, eh? Oh, the professor is sick, eh? Oh, you got a new car, eh? So the "a" is a convenient tag question substitute. I picked it up myself. It's a great Canadian invention. So speak Canadian. It's great. Okay. One final use of intonation that we can talk about is called holding the floor. The floor, in this sense, is kind of a metaphor for who has the right to speak. So back to Parliament. There are certain rules of interaction in speaking and debate that come from parliaments, like British and European parliaments. Whoever holds the floor of the parliament is the person who is speaking and has the right to speak. They have been granted permission to speak. They are recognized as the one who is allowed to speak at the time. It could be the Speaker of the House who manages all of this, like Mr. Bercow, who takes the floor when he speaks and says, "Order! Order!" And he says it because, well, some member perhaps was supposed to be speaking, a member of Parliament out on the floor was supposed to be speaking, but other people are interrupting, they're making noise, they're objecting loudly to what the Prime Minister said, and Mr. Bercow will shout, "Order!" In order to get order and then direct, he will take the floor and then in order to give it back to the person who is supposed to be speaking, a particular MP or member of parliament. So that's holding the floor. And of course he's using order with a strong, loud voice and a falling intonation. They might say, when it's maybe not as bad, I might say order, order. It's kind of like getting your attention with maybe a slight rising intonation. This order means I really mean it. Be quiet. So that's called holding the floor. So in linguistics, we also use this to describe who is speaking at a certain time. Maybe you are talking to another person, or you're talking to maybe several people, or it could be a classroom discussion. In the classroom, of course, usually the professor has the floor, but then a student raises a hand and then they have the right to speak for a moment, and then back to the professor who takes the floor back. So that's called holding the floor. So if you are having a conversation with somebody, you take turns, you go back and forth. One person has the floor, and another person has the floor. One function of this rising intonation might be holding the floor. So I may get to the end of one clause or one sentence, but I want to tell you I'm not done speaking. I want to say something else after I finish this sentence. Listen to Bercow's example again, the end of the first clause.
The honourable gentleman has got to learn the art of patience.
Falling intonation. If the gentleman would learn the art of patience, falling intonation. Now, if in this case he's the speaker, he has authority. But if it's maybe a one-to-one conversation, I could say, if you learn the art of patience.
And if he is patient.
Or if I said, if you learn the art of patience, so I'm going to put a rising intonation. If you learn the art of patience, that's signaling to you I'm going to say something after this clause, after the comma.
If he deploys Zen, he will find that it is ultimately to everybody's advantage. If he deploys Zen, he will find that it is ultimately to everybody's advantage.
Speaking. If you learn the art of patience. So sometimes we do this in speaking. I end the sentence. I'm going to end the sentence with a rising intonation because I'm going to say something after this. Notice what I did? Rising intonation. So sometimes we do this. However, younger people, especially in American English, have gotten into a bad habit of overusing this rising intonation, this floor-holding intonation. It can also signal, for example, I'm not sure of something. I think the test is tomorrow. So the rising intonation means I'm not sure. You can also use it for that purpose. I'm not sure. I think the test is tomorrow, or I think the homework is due next week, but I'm not sure. Oh, I better check. Some Americans have gotten into the habit of overusing this. Now, when you overuse it, you will sound weak. Especially women tend to overuse this, younger women especially. You will sound weak, you will sound like you lack confidence. And you especially should not use it that much when you have the floor and you are the leader of a meeting, or you are the person presenting, or you're the teacher of the class. You should not use it too much. Using it too much will sound feminine, and I don't mean that in a negative way, it's too overly feminine, I should say. Maybe overly feminine or girlish, or weak, or lacking confidence. So don't overuse this, especially if you're giving a presentation. Don't overuse this rising intonation, this floor holding rising intonation, or rising intonation to signal I'm not sure, I'm not confident. So try to use more natural intonation. So for practicing intonation, what I would suggest is listen to videos of some of your favorite speakers. Your favorite speakers may be on TED.com. There are a lot of good speakers there. There's another TED forum called TEDx, and those are kind of less experienced speakers, and I find the speakers are not very good examples. So the real TED.com speakers, they tend to be really good speakers. Most of them are really good speakers. They're used to public speaking. Listen to other good public speakers, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, John Bercow, not the current president of my country. Listen to good speakers and maybe imitate them. Imitate them as you speak. You listen to them enough that you can kind of absorb their personality, their character, and their manner of speaking, their style. And maybe when you're speaking, you can pretend that you're them. So one thing is to listen to a video and then imitate them after they say something. And that's called shadowing. Shadowing means you kind of listen to something and you imitate right after that, right after they say something, you imitate it, you repeat it. You can do this for a while, don't do it too much, it can be tiring, but some shadowing practice is a good way to learn pronunciation, not just intonation, but other aspects of pronunciation. And another thing is when you're actually giving a presentation or a talk or doing an interview, imagine you're John Bercow, or sometimes Hillary Clinton was a good speaker, not a strong candidate, but sometimes she was a good speaker. So if you're a woman, pick a good female role model. Offhand, I can think of maybe some YouTubers that you probably don't know, but pick a good role model. And then when you can kind of imagine you're speaking as Barack Obama or as Hillary Clinton. Oh, Elizabeth Warren. She's an American politician, an American senator. She's a good speaker. She comes to mind. Senator Elizabeth Warren is a good role model maybe for women. So it's what we call channeling. It's like you're using that you're letting yourself be a channel for that person speaking. So you imagine you're speaking like that person. It's called channeling. So these are some things you can do in order to maybe improve your English pronunciation, including your intonation. So this is maybe quite a lot of stuff. I'm just lecturing to you, mainly to make you aware of certain things that you should pay attention to. So it's up to you really, if you want to improve your spoken English, it's up to you to practice through listening to good examples, good speakers, maybe shadowing, maybe channeling them when you're actually talking in English. So if you have any questions about this, leave them in the comment section here or in the LMS. And in my class next time, we might start on the next unit. Good luck on your midterm. Good luck on your preparation for it. And I will see you later. Goodbye.